He wasn't supposed to leave in a zipped-up coffin that night. He was supposed to walk in and blow the lid off decades of carefully packaged lies. But instead of speaking, Malcolm Jamal Warner became a headline. And now the woman who bit her tongue for years just cracked it wide open. Phylicia Rashad, the calm matriarch of the Cosby brand, broke down on camera, voice trembling, eyes heavy with grief, and dropped the kind of truth bomb that makes Hollywood's PR teams sweat through their suits. Malcolm didn't drown. He was shut up. And the man she's pointing at, Bill Cosby, let that simmer. The man once sold as America's dad, now accused of masterminding the death of the very son figure who trusted him most. And Phylicia, she's naming names, torching the fake grins and dusty skeletons, because Malcolm died begging for someone to hear him. He left voicemails. He left warnings. One chilling message: if something happens to me, don't let her speak at my funeral. Don't let them turn my truth into a script. And of course, that's exactly what they tried until now. Because this time Phylicia Rashad is standing there, tears brimming, carrying the weight of a dead man's truth like a weapon. What she's unloading is darker than you can picture. Don't blink, don't scroll. Because after you hear what she saw, you'll never see Bill Cosby as just a sitcom dad again. Malcolm was exhausted, but not finished. Wounded, but still ready to speak. He spent his life defending a legacy never built to defend him. A legacy sewn together with reruns, fake smiles, and lies. And now the final thread just snapped, because Phylicia Rashad confirmed the one thing everyone whispered but feared to say out loud. Malcolm didn't just die, he was erased. Didn't drown, he was murdered. And according to Phylicia Rashad, the hand pulling the strings was none other than Bill Cosby. This isn't gossip. This isn't some fan theory rabbit hole. This is straight from the woman who played his mom on TV, who watched him grow up, who's carried that set's ugliest skeletons in silence, until now, until her voice cracked, until her hand shook, clutching the last piece of evidence Malcolm Jamal Warner left behind, until she looked dead into a camera and said, "I've stayed quiet for too long." Malcolm was trying to spill the truth, and they made sure he never got the chance. People love to think Hollywood is all red carpets and fairy dust. They don't see the shadows hiding behind the spotlights. They don't hear the whispered threats between takes. But Phylicia did. She saw Malcolm crumble. She saw the fear in his eyes. She heard him whisper, "If something happens to me, tell them I tried." And she kept that promise. It all began with a so-called secret meeting. Hours later, Malcolm was face down in the water. He wasn't even supposed to be there. He was supposed to be working on his passion project, his confession, a documentary called Behind the Sitcom Smile. But that night, someone rewrote the script. Someone dragged him into a closed-door meeting with castmates who hadn't spoken in years. The air was ice, the tension thick enough to choke on. And Phylicia swears she felt it in her bones. Something bad was about to erupt. She says Tempest Bledsoe wouldn't meet her eyes, that when Bill Cosby's name came up, the room went dead still. And then came the whispered threats, and those dusty old files laid out like loaded weapons on the table. Then came the moment that still keeps her up at night, still haunts her. To this day, Malcolm Jamal Warner, locking eyes with Tempest Bledsoe, and spitting out, "You took everything from me, and you thought I wouldn't find out." And Tempest. Not a denial, not a word, just a smug little smirk. Hours later, he was gone. The official report screamed drowning, but there was no water in his lungs, no sand on his clothes, no signs of a struggle, just eerie, staged stillness. Like someone had rehearsed, making it look like an accident. But it wasn't, because the very next morning, Phylicia Rashad gets a mystery package with no return address inside, an old VHS tape, a stack of handwritten letters, and a USB labeled, "Play When I'm Gone." The tape, dated 1993, showed a private rehearsal and a fight. Bill Cosby, barking, "We can't let him ruin this. He's too emotional. He talks too much." Tempest firing back, "Then make sure he doesn't talk." All on tape, the way they plotted around Malcolm, the way they laughed about protecting the brand, the way they sneered at contracts. "He's young," Cosby said. "He'll sign anything." But Malcolm didn't. That was the twist. In the days before his death, he'd realized he wasn't an actor in their game. He was a puppet, and he was cutting the strings. He started writing a tele-memoir. No ghostwriter, no edits, just Malcolm raw, hurt, and ready to burn it all down. In an email to a friend, he even warned, "I've got names, I've got files. If I end up gone, it won't be random, it won't be tragic, it'll be targeted." And that's exactly how it went down. At his funeral, the whole facade cracked black suits, fake tears, and the stench of secrets hanging over the room, and fake tears thick in the air. Tempest Bledsoe tried to take the mic, but Phylicia Rashad cut her dead in her tracks with one icy line. "You don't get to speak on his soul. You helped end it." The room froze. Malcolm's mother turned away. Guests sobbed. Someone fainted in the aisle. And there was Phylicia standing like a battle-hardened soldier, VHS in one hand, Malcolm's photo in the other. No tears then, but later, caught by a backstage camera, she crumbled. "I saw him die twice," she whispered. "Once in front of me, and once when the truth was buried." Now, she's digging it back up. No interviews, no red carpets, just silence. Except for one move. She hired a private investigator, quietly, off the radar. What they uncovered made her break that silence for good. Bank records, ironclad NDAs, a deleted email thread between Tempest and a Hollywood fixer, and one bone-chilling message: "He's getting too close. You handle him or I will." Sent exactly 72 hours before Malcolm's death. This isn't theory, it's a full-blown timeline, a digital blueprint of betrayal and the erasure of a man who only wanted to speak. And now that Phylicia has spoken, the cover-up's unraveling. "I should have protected him more," she admits. "I thought silence was safety, but silence is where killers hide." That raw, brutal honesty has lit a wildfire. Reddit's asterisks. Exploding TikTok detectives are dissecting every frame, every interview, every look. The internet's not just watching anymore. It's hunting. YouTubers are dissecting everything. Old episodes, dusty interviews, side-eyes caught on camera, hugs that feel more like hostage situations. It's all being rewatched, reanalyzed, and relived, frame by frame. And now it's clear. The whispers weren't paranoia. The emails weren't overblown. And the fears weren't fantasies. Malcolm Jamal Warner wasn't stalked by strangers. He was hunted by the very people he once called family. With Phylicia Rashad's confession ricocheting across the internet, the one question burning through Hollywood is simple: who else knew? Because if Bill Cosby really pulled the strings, and if Tempest Bledsoe really helped sweep it under the rug, then how many others stood by and watched? How many execs ignored the red flags? How many publicists rewrote the truth? How many fake smiles were plastered on while a man was quietly erased? This isn't a script anymore. It's real, it's ugly, and it's soul-crushing. And if Phylicia Rashad, the calm, composed queen of black television, is this rattled, then the truth is worse than anything we've ever imagined. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a tragedy. This was an execution dressed up in a sitcom smile. They fed us a fairy tale, that Malcolm slipped, drowned, went peacefully, and that no foul play was involved. But now we know that was pure fiction. Days after Phylicia's bombshell shook the internet, fresh evidence dropped, proof pointing to something far darker, deliberate, and chilling. Behind the curtain, insiders are finally speaking. A former production assistant, a security guard, even a hairstylist, all telling the same story. Malcolm knew something dangerous, and he wasn't supposed to talk. They remember him acting on edge, watching his back, canceling meetings, switching locations at the last second. He wasn't paranoid for nothing. He was a marked man. One assistant swears Malcolm Jamal Warner made her leave her phone outside every single time they met. No exceptions. "They're listening," he whispered once. "They're watching everything." And then there's the voicemail. The one his friend got just 12 hours before Malcolm's body turned up. His voice was low, shaking. "If anything happens to me, don't trust the story they give you. Don't trust her. Don't trust him. You know who I mean." That friend says he's replayed it hundreds of times, and when Phylicia Rashad echoed those exact words, he broke down, sobbing. But it gets darker. Just before his death, Malcolm wasn't even supposed to be in that part of California. He had booked a wellness retreat in Santa Barbara, serene, quiet, safe. But suddenly, he's redirected. An anonymous sponsor books him a different place near Big Bear Lake. His assistant never got the confirmation. Malcolm just disappeared from the schedule, only to reappear as a corpse, and the property where he was found. Not a retreat, a private gated estate. No neighbors, no cameras, no explanation. The last person to text him, Tempest Bledsoe. No emoji, no friendly tone, just 5 blunt words. "We need to talk now." That text hit 32 minutes before his phone stopped pinging towers. Officially, investigators never shared that detail. But a whistleblower inside says the metadata was buried, redacted under pressure from above, and one of the names scrubbed from those files allegedly belonged to someone very high up in the Cosby inner circle. Meanwhile, Phylicia Rashad swears she's being tailed, and this isn't just some paparazzi drive-by, dark SUVs, unfamiliar faces, her home security system tripping 3 times in 2 days. Her teams put her under private protection, not for celebrity status, but for survival, because what she's leaked so far, that's just Act 1. She's hinted at emails, voice recordings, and a hard drive Malcolm Jamal Warner left in her care with folders titled The Setup, contracts they forced, and one simply labeled Bill. She hasn't dropped them yet, but she's warned, if anything happens to me, the world will see it all. And now, the world's watching. Social media is in overdrive. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Malcolm and hashtag Cosby cover-up trending. Globally, fans are scrubbing through old interviews, reunion specials, and behind-the-scenes clips like FBI agents on caffeine. They're catching Malcolm flinch when Bill Cosby touches his shoulder, spotting tense glances with Tempest Bledsoe, even unearthing a table read where Malcolm refuses to laugh at Cosby's joke. Body language experts are calling it, the discomfort was always there, we just didn't notice. But Phylicia did. She says the turning point came weeks before his death, when Malcolm handed her a sealed envelope and told her, "This is my truth, you decide what to do with it." She opened it only after the funeral. Inside, a flash drive and a forward note, "Don't let them win." According to her legal team, the drive holds raw, unfiltered video logs, Malcolm talking betrayal, naming threats, admitting his fear for his life. He drops names. He names Cosby. He names Tempest. And in one final, haunting clip, he looks dead into the camera and says, "If this is the last time you see my face, just know it wasn't suicide. It wasn't a slip. They got to me." That single line has haunted every soul who's watched the footage. The eyes, the voice, the weight in his words. It's not acting. It's a man counting down his final hours, and then comes the gut punch, the autopsy. We were told it was open and shut, drowning, nothing suspicious, case closed. But Phylicia Rashad says the family never even saw the full report, pages missing, toxicology results inconclusive and conveniently ignored, died days after the headlines faded. The unthinkable happened. Malcolm's body was cremated against his family's wishes. Tempest Bledsoe allegedly pushed for it, leaning on the funeral home with, "Let's not drag this out. He'd want peace." The family begged for a delay, a second opinion, a private pathologist, denied at every turn. And once the ashes were scattered, so was the physical evidence, but not the truth. Now, the whispers are becoming shouts. A retired showrunner drops a cryptic online post. "I worked with Cosby. I saw how he handled problems. Malcolm wasn't a problem. He was a threat." Another ex-crew member spills, "Back then, if you crossed Bill Cosby, your career was over. But if you held his secrets, you didn't have a career. You had a target on your back." This isn't about one death, it's about decades of control, fear, and one man who tried to shatter that system, and paid in full. And now, Phylicia Rashad is done staying silent. She's demanding the case be reopened, offering up every weapon she's got, the tapes. The emails, the hard drive, putting her career, her legacy, and her safety on the line to drag the truth into the light. Safety on the line, because as Phylicia Rashad put it in a private interview, this isn't about fame. This isn't about ratings. This is about a young man who wanted to speak and died with his voice stolen. And the question rattling across the globe isn't what happened to Malcolm Jamal Warner. It's who silenced him, and why. If what Phylicia says is true, if Bill Cosby really pulled the strings and Tempest Bledsoe really played a part, then this isn't a tragedy. It's a cover-up. It's a crime. It's the story Hollywood never wanted told, until now. The cameras had stopped rolling, the canned laughter had died, the applause was a memory, and what was left? A casket not just holding a body, but locking away a truth buried under decades of silence. Malcolm wasn't just a sitcom star. He was a voice, a witness, a survivor. And now we know, he was a target. The most chilling part, he knew it. He saw it coming and tried to warn us. His final days weren't peaceful, they were soaked in fear. Midnight calls to friends, whispering, "They're circling me," cancelled projects, tightened circles, no smiles in photos. A man quietly preparing for war, praying for enough time to tell his story, but he never got that chance, because someone made sure of it. And now, Phylicia Rashad has confirmed what so many only dared whisper. Malcolm was murdered by the very people he once called family, Tempest Bledsoe and Bill Cosby. A duo wrapped in sitcom smiles, built on primetime success, hiding rot that was never meant to see daylight. But now the truth has a voice, and Phylicia Rashad just handed it a megaphone. She's spilled it all. The side-eye stares, the buried emails, the forged contracts, the threats whispered behind locked doors, the meetings scrubbed from call sheets, the mysteriously dropped calls, the retreat that was never on the books, the sudden location swap, the estate's missing camera footage, the cremation order shoved through without consent. Every detail, every lie, every red flag laid bare. And with each new leak, one fact hits harder. Malcolm's death wasn't an accident. It was a mission. He was days away from dropping the teaser for Behind the Sitcom Smile, a raw, no-filter documentary that promised to rip the curtain off decades of manipulation, abuse, and dirty deals behind America's most beloved black family sitcom. The leaked chapter titles alone read like warning shots: The Price of Silence, Smiling Through Threats, What Cosby Taught Us, Behind the Scenes, Tempest's Game, Blood and Syndication. Each one a scream, disguised as a work in progress. Farewell. Malcolm knew this wasn't just career-ending material, it was empire-toppling, and now, it's gone. Files wiped, servers purged, passwords changed, cameras stolen, hard drives vanished. A cleanup only power and pure panic could pull off. But they didn't get it all. Because Malcolm wasn't just brave, he was prepared. He knew eyes were on him, so he backed up his files. He hid clips under fake project names, sent encrypted videos to 3 people he trusted, and Phylicia Rashad was one of them. Now she's working with a legal team to verify and restore what's left, and what they've seen. Emotional confessionals, hidden camera moments, old cast meetings laced with shouting in the background. In one video, filmed just days before his death, Malcolm Jamal Warner stares dead into the lens and says, "If I die, it's not from God. It's from them." Those exact words, "It's from them." But the heartbreak isn't just what they did to him, it's how long he carried it. How many times he smiled for the cameras while bleeding behind the scenes. How many red carpets he walked while being blackmailed in private. How many fake hugs he accepted from the very people plotting his erasure, and the world, completely oblivious until now. At the memorial, Phylicia tried to keep it together. She stayed silent at first, nodded through the lies, but when Tempest Bledsoe took the mic, sobbing like a grieving sister, Phylicia snapped. She marched to the podium, locked eyes with her, and said loud enough for every ear in the room, "You don't get to cry, you don't get to lie, you don't get to act like you didn't help bury him." The air went dead, gasps, tears. A few stood up and walked out. Tempest froze, no denial, no defense, just silence, because guilt doesn't always speak. Sometimes it just stares back. Later that night, someone leaked the memorial's